Rosemary might be the hardest working plant in our garden and also the most overlooked. It holds the slope, perfumes our hands when we walk by, feeds bees in winter, and still shows up later in our tea, bath, and even hair care. Today I want to share how rosemary went from a basic drought-tolerant shrub to one of the quiet essentials in our everyday life. Welcome to With the Garden. Here in Los Angeles, in a cozy yard, I'm learning and sharing as I go. I hope you'll grow along with me. Let's begin. Rosemary was among the very first plants we brought home when we decided to turn our lawn into something more alive and sustainable. It came in with lavender, star jasmine, and a few other ornamentals on one enthusiastic nursery trip, back when our main criteria were simple: drought-tolerant, good-looking, and fragrant. Rosemary passed the test easily. We planted several small shrubs along the curb and near the front path, having no idea how long they would stay or how many roles they would take on. At first, rosemary was just a nice plant to be around. Evergreen, compact, tidy. I loved how the foliage stayed green when other plants sulked, and how a light rub of the leaves released a clean, resinous scent that clung to my hands as I kept working in the yard. The tiny lilac flowers felt like a bonus, little misty blue flags that showed up in cool seasons and drew bees into clouds around the bushes. Only later did I learn that this same plant was feeding native pollinators, flavoring our food, and offering its oils to medicine cabinets and laboratories around the world. One of our favorite ways to enjoy rosemary now is in homemade hydrosol. The setup is simple and uses only kitchen tools. On a cool morning, when the essential oil content is at its peak, we cut healthy branches, rinse them gently, and arrange them in a large stock pot with filtered water. A small bowl sits in the center of the pot, kept lower than the rim. The glass lid goes on upside down, so its highest point is directly above the bowl. We bring the pot to a gentle simmer, never a rolling boil, and place ice on top of the inverted lid. Inside, the steam rises, carrying rosemary's volatile compounds, hits the cooled lid, condenses, and drips down into the waiting bowl as a light, fragrant distillate. This is our rosemary hydrosol. We bottle it and keep it in the fridge, where it has more or less become a permanent resident. On hot days, a fine mist of this hydrosol on face, neck, or wrists can lift a heavy mood surprisingly quickly. It feels like a small reset button. I also spray it onto my scalp after washing my hair. Over time, it seems to calm the skin and reduce dandruff. A practical use I learned first from herbal references and then confirmed with my own head as a test site. For summer baths, we often combine fresh rosemary branches with lavender, sometimes with lemongrass, mugwort, or mint, depending on the day. A simple simmered herb bath turns the tub into quiet therapy without needing anything fancy. And when I want a warm, stimulating drink, a small sprig of rosemary steeped in hot water makes a bracing tea. I have learned to drink it while it is still warm. Once it cools, the flavor turns noticeably more bitter. Botanically, rosemary is a woody perennial shrub now classified as Salvia rosmarinus. In our Los Angeles garden, it stays evergreen year-round, with a flush of new growth in late winter and early spring, and scattered flowering in the cooler months. The leaves are narrow and needle-like, dark glossy green on top and paler, almost greyish underneath, with tiny hairs that help reduce water loss. The flowers are small and two-lipped, in shades of pale blue to lavender, clustering along the upper stems. Bees, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects treat them like a reliable winter cafe. We started with several rosemary plants, and over the years have propagated and relocated them into the ground or into large containers wherever we needed structure or fragrance. Rosemary tolerates pruning well. As long as you do not cut deep into bare, old wood, it responds with dense new growth. In our climate, it is happiest in full sun and well-drained soil. Once established, it survives on very little supplemental water. Deep, infrequent watering is better than frequent sips, and heavy clay soil benefits from raised mounds or added grit to keep the roots from sitting in water. The one real problem we have met is powdery mildew on plants that ended up in partial shade with poor air movement, especially after stretches of foggy, damp mornings. In our yard, the sunniest spots are reserved for fruit trees and vegetables, so a few rosemary shrubs have to live with compromised light. Even so, rosemary is tough. When shade eventually lessens, those same plants rebound quickly. For powdery mildew, we prune to open up the interior branches and spray a simple solution made from a tablespoon of baking soda and a few drops of mild dish soap dissolved in a gallon of water. That, combined with better sun and airflow, usually clears the problem without stronger interventions. In the wider world, rosemary has traveled far from its original home. It is native to the Mediterranean basin, where rocky hillsides, salty breezes, and dry summers shaped it into the drought-tolerant shrub we know today. Its Latin name refers to the sea, a reminder that on some coastal cliffs you can stand between rosemary and the waves and breathe both at once. For centuries, people in Europe used rosemary as a symbol of memory, loyalty, and passage. It appears in paintings on window ledges and in still lifes, and in plays and poems as a sprig for remembrance and fidelity. In traditional Chinese literature and painting, rosemary does not really appear, simply because the plant itself did not travel widely into East Asia until relatively recently. Today, in Chinese cities, potted rosemary on balconies and kitchen windows is more a part of contemporary lifestyle imagery, a borrowed Mediterranean symbol of simple, slow living than a classical motif. Nutritionally, the fresh leaves are used in small amounts, so their vitamin and mineral contribution to a meal is modest. What rosemary really brings are aromatic compounds and antioxidants like rosmarinic acid and carnosic acid, which help protect fats and oils from oxidation. This is one reason rosemary extract shows up in ingredient lists as a natural preservative, and why rosemary-based marinades can slightly slow the formation of harmful compounds during high-heat cooking. At home, we keep it simple. A sprig tucked under roasting potatoes, stirred into beans and lentils, baked into bread dough, or infused in olive oil for a more flavorful drizzle. Commercially, rosemary essential oil and extracts go into soaps, shampoos, massage oils, and skincare formulas, often marketed for their invigorating scent and potential antioxidant or scalp-supporting properties, even if the science is still catching up with some of the claims. In our garden, rosemary has settled into its role as a steady neighbor, holding soil, feeding insects, seasoning meals, scenting baths, misting tired faces, and occasionally helping with an itchy scalp. It is not the flashiest plant here, but it is one of the most constant. As with many plants in our yard, living with rosemary has changed how we think about what belongs in a so-called ornamental space and how many forms nourishment can take, from flavor to fragrance to mood. I am curious about your experience. Do you grow rosemary where you live? And if so, how does it fit into your daily life? Thank you for watching. If this was helpful or inspiring, please give it a like, share, subscribe, and tell me what you're growing in the comments. See you next time in the garden.